You stay with the farmers until morning. They share their fires, their rations, and looks of gratitude, but none of them have any will for real celebration. The beast is dead, and you are all still alive. That is celebration enough. Nice, so no one died. That's good. Come morning, the farmers offer to escort you back to Sonoma Sea. After washing the blood from your body, clothing, and weapons in a nearby stream, you begin the long walk back in high spirits. The guards at Sonoma Sea's gates escort you and the others straight through the courtyard. Some of the refugees look up and try to approach the farmers with you, but the soldiers keep them back with prods from the butts of their spears. You and the farmers are taken directly to the Great Hall, where Baroness Eleni sits holding court. Stephen and Maud are called forward first by name. Together they tell the story of how you came to their settlement and helped deal with the Razor Claw once and for all. After they finish their tale, the Baroness sits for a moment, her eyes closed in thought. Then she beckons them forward and drops something in their hand. For your bravery, to be shared among your fellows, you hear the Baroness say to them. When they walk away, you see them each holding a small pouch jiggling with silver. Then she orders you brought forward to face her. You have done me a great service, Zygmunt of Kendrickstone, she begins. By ridding us of this beast, you have made it possible for those who live under my protection to flourish in safety once again. The Baroness leans forward, meeting your gaze with her piercing eyes. For this, I am grateful. Then she leans back again and addresses the entire room with a deep, commanding voice. Let it be known to all that this adventurer, Zygmunt of Kendrickstone, volunteered to defend the people of Sonoma Sea of his own free will. Let it be known that this adventurer did battle against a great beast and triumphed unscathed, so that there be a feast in his honor this very night. Behind you, Maud, Stephen, and the other farmers cheer. The guards, bound by oath to celebrate when the Baroness gives the order, do as well. Achievement unlocked, the Razor's Edge. Nice. You fulfilled Dame Mildred's request. After a moment, though, the Baroness calls for silence with a slicing motion of her hand. The Great Hall immediately falls quiet again. However, great a thing this may seem now, adventurer, know that such announcements fade from memory quickly, and a full belly will empty itself even more quickly, the noblewoman cautions. Thus, she begins again, I shall also offer you a choice of more lasting rewards for your service. The Baroness turns to her seneschal, who reaches into his belt and pulls out a small, heavy pouch. Unless things have changed in the past 30 years, adventurers still accept payment in coin, do they not? The Baroness asks. You nod, and the aging noblewoman smiles back. This pouch contains a reward of 4 gold pieces, nice, equivalent to 400 silver, all yours should you choose it. Your mind reels at that. 400 silvers would be enough money to make you a person of substance and give you some semblance of the financial security you've spent the past 3 months sorely lacking. Before you can reply, the Baroness holds up her other hand. However, there is a second option. She waves towards the woman at her side, the one clad in clothes of a master crafter. Jocelyn here is the armorer at Sonoma Sea. Her grandmother was the best armorer in Corellandis, and now she is the best armorer in Concordat. She has agreed to offer you one of her latest pieces should you choose. The armorer steps forward. I've been doing some experiments with using quench steel plates to armor joints and extremities. I've had a lot of success with using rivets as hinges for overlapping steel plates. I have several pairs of gauntlets demonstrating the principle. I can guarantee you that they'll be both more flexible and more protective than a male under the same circumstances. You can't help but wonder at that. After all, more armor would be a great help the next time you plan on tangling with bandits or dangerous monsters. What will you choose? I take the money, I opt for the equipment, or I refuse any sort of reward. Man, I want a freaking shield! Why can't they give me a shield? Well, we will be serving under Dame Mildred for quite some time, so... It's a gauntlet, so it will cover our arms. We have clothing, right? We have a thick vest of quilted cotton and linen. So we have armor on our body. We don't have a freaking shield, and we have... I'd like a better sword and a shield, but the equipment might be better. Now let's go with the equipment. I'll take the armor, you reply. The Baroness nods towards you and then towards her armorer. Jocelyn quickly steps through the side door. It is not long before the smith returns, this time with a pair of steel gauntlets in her arms, both polished to a bright sheen. The pieces of armor clatter as you take them from the smith's hand. You try them on and find that they fit surprisingly well. The sheepskin lining keeps the metal. Oh, the sheepskin lining keeps the metal from chafing your hands, and the articulation of the metal plates is so fine that you barely notice you are wearing gauntlets at all. You give your thanks and are dismissed. Even as you walk out of the great hall, you can hear the first sounds of jubilation echoing in. For the refugees in the courtyard, their long ordeal is finally over. Your high spirits today, full of confidence. Your relatively high morale confers a +1 bonus to attributes. I wonder if it's gonna show here, the gauntlets. Despite the extremely short notice, preparations for the feast progress quickly. By the time you return to the Great Hall, an hour before sunset, trestle tables have already been set up, each adorned with silvered water basins on each end. At the far end, where the Baroness held court merrily a few hours before, the high table stands, covered with snowy white linen and accompanied by elegantly carved high-backed chairs. If nothing else, the sight reminds you of home, of the feast your mother and father put on in your family's great hall before you left for Sir Callum's keep. The liveried girl at the entrance ushers you to the high table, where you are seated at the Baroness' right hand, a position of high honor. More of the guests filter in as time passes. Maud, Stephen, and the other men and women who fought with you are sent to the high table as well. They take their seats with a mix of astonishment and anxiety. You doubt any of them could have imagined humble farmers like themselves being allowed to sit at Baroness' table. Other villagers, though, seem far more anxious. Maud's little red-haired son sits by his mother's side, wide-eyed at the tapestries and vaulted ceilings of Son Mercy's great hall. A few minutes after you arrive, the wine is served, a heavy red of excellent vintage from the south, and a lighter, sweeter white wine from Torrinhall. With the wine strong and unwatered, you find your head beginning to swim after a few minutes of drinking and idle chatter. It is then that the last of the guests arrive and the Baroness orders the feast to begin in earnest. A drummer is joined by 2 women with a hurdy-gurdy. Oh, that's a nice one. One of the women begins to pull the crank, as the second works the pegs along its board, filling the hall with the complex string instruments' melodic tones, even as the servants carry in their heavy-laden dishes. First comes an entire roast boar, its skin rubbed with rare Corrivandine spices and glazed with honey. Next, there is an immense fish, boiled and lightly dusted with green herbs. A lighter course follows, weak soup with hints of black pepper. I must apologize, the Baroness says ruefully at one point. Son Mercy is not a wealthy thief, and the kitchen has so little time to prepare. This isn't much of a banquet. You try not to choke on your wine when you hear that. Despite the noblewoman's self-depreciation, this is the best you have eaten in, well, ever. However, what she says does hold a grain of truth. The Baroness is relatively minor noble. You can only imagine what the Duke's feasts are like. Perhaps one day, when you are famous enough or powerful enough, you will find out. The last course is a great pie the size of a wagon wheel. It's filled with slices of apples and pears and is flavored with a dusting of cinnamon and brown sugar. Where the hell would they get brown sugar? In between courses, you regale the hall with the story of your victory. You tell your story as best as you can. You're not exactly a legendary orator, but you manage well enough to keep everyone's attention. though it is possible a few in the hall are whistling merry out of politeness. There are points where you stumble, and a few where you throw too much emphasis on the wrong word. It's not your best performance. Still, there is a polite round of applause when you finish, more for your deeds themselves than for your rather lukewarm retelling. Still, a few might remember the story you told this evening. As the night wears on, you eventually find that you cannot eat a single bite more. Indeed, it seems only the devoted gluttons come close to finishing the last course. One by one, the many still unfinished dishes are taken away. You know that the substantial remains of the birds and beasts you have feasted on tonight will be given to the refugees in the courtyard, and the poor of the thief come tomorrow morning. Still, you can't help but think the poor refugees deserve the feast more than you. After all, they are the ones who've lost their livelihoods and homes to the creature. The thought hangs like a damp cloth over the night's revelry. Finally, the feast begins to wind down. First, the servants and guards at the lower table leave. Many have to wake up early the next morning. Soon you begin to feel your eyelids drop. However, instead of escorting you back to the guardroom where you stayed on your first night at Sonne Merci, the servants at the door instead send you to guest quarters made up for your benefit. There, a massive 4-poster bed, amid fine rugs and tapestries, you drift off to your long, restful sleep. The next day, you take road back to Kendrickstone. The refugees, already picking to return to their homes, cheer as you pass them by. The guards at the gate, too, salute you as you pass. You have made yourself a name among these people, your first step towards becoming a great hero. The trip back to the great city is uneventful. The weather is fine and clear, and the autumn breezes keep you cool as you walk down the road unmolested. You arrive at the city's southern gate while the sun is still in the sky. The guards wave you past within a second look. Without delay, you make your way through the narrow, crowded streets of the city you have begun to see as your home. It does take long to arrive at the front gates of the city keep. It doesn't take you long to arrive at the front gates of the city keep. You report back to Dame Mildred, flush with success, only to find her in a foul mood. Nonetheless, you make your report, pride creeping into your voice. The knight responds to your tale of triumph with a wan smile. Well then, I suppose that's some good news for this week. What's that supposed to mean? You reply, genuinely curious. Mildred grimaces and then breathes a long, deep sigh, loaded down with the weight of frustration. While you were able to do your job, we failed ours. We got to the tax cart too late. Bandits had already attacked, the guards were dead, and the gold was gone. The knight's hand clenches into a fist as she breathes deeply again. We failed, Zygmunt. We failed because we underestimated our foe. The knight runs her hand through her hair as she looks away, taking long, calming breaths all the while. When she turns back, much of the anger in her expression is gone. Regardless, I'm glad that you made it back in one piece, she finally says. I suppose you're hungry, tired, and have better things to do than to watch an old soldier be angry at herself. If there's nothing else, you should get some food and sleep. You nod, taking your mistress' word as a dismissal. That night, you are the toast of the guardroom. After the bitter news of the Knights of Kendrickstone's failures up north, your own successful mission is a much-needed piece of good news. Servants, squires, and even fool knights come down to hear the tale of your first real adventure. By the time you finally retire, after innumerable toasts to your name, your head is swimming. That night, you sleep like a baby, drunk on ale and your first real taste of fame. So, that concludes chapter 4 of the Hero of Kendrickstone. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm gonna head to chapter 5, which is an object lesson.